All right, so we're going to officially get started, and I want to welcome everyone to our Industry Insights talk today, which is going to be focused on careers in counseling. For those of you who are here who don't know me, my name is Christine Falcone, and I'm an assistant director in the Career Development Center at St. Joseph's University. I also have a master's degree in school counseling, and my background was in 7 through 12 before I entered into the higher education field. I'm really excited about this event. We have great panelists who are here to share their experience and their advice. I'm going to give you all a brief introduction to the panelists now, but I'm also going to link for you guys a link to their full bios, which I'll type into the chat feature. As I mentioned before, this is being recorded, and students, we will definitely have time for questions at the end. So feel free to be typing them into the chat function as we go along. And as I mentioned before, also, if you want to see the speakers spotlighted, just change your view if you don't see that already through Zoom. So let's get started with a brief intro of all of our speakers, and then I'm going to start off with our first question. So starting off, we have Danielle Dixon, and she wears many hats, including consultant, trainer, author, owner, and coach. She's a global career development facilitator and certified life and career success coach. Her coaching sessions aim to help people realize their goals by assisting them with identifying their problem areas and then determining the most effective solutions to overcome them and follow their dreams. Lauren Emma is a licensed clinical social worker who has worked in a variety of settings, including outpatient mental health centers and long-term treatment settings, providing psychotherapy to individuals, groups, and families from diverse backgrounds and age ranges. She is certified in the Daring Way, which focuses on developing shame resiliency skills, which transform the way people live, love, parent, and lead. Sarah Morissette is the assistant chair in the guidance and college counseling department at St. Peter's Prep. She is dedicated to providing guidance to students as they navigate complex issues such as academic planning and preparing for college. She is passionate about helping students who are transitioning to a new phase in their academic careers. Her background in college admissions places her in a unique position to offer meaningful, practical advice for students and families. And last but not least, Katherine Owens is the Associate Director of College Counseling at Cristo Rey Jesuit High School in Baltimore. Katherine has experience in higher education in both admissions and advising roles and brings that expertise into her daily work with students. Katherine is passionate about equity in education and feels blessed to have the opportunity to support her students in their path of self-discovery and personal success. So welcome to our panelists. Thank you for being here and for spending this time with us. I know the world is in an interesting place now, and all of you have different challenges at your current work environment. So we really appreciate the hour that you're going to spend with us talking about your career and what you do every day. And I want to start off by having each of you share briefly what a day in your professional life might look like, so students get a sense of, like, what does this job really entail? And Sarah, I'm going to start with you, and then if you can just punt it to someone else, that would be great.
Absolutely, and thanks so much for having me. Hi, Hawks. It's so good to be with you. Never in my life would I think I would have the opportunity, so thank you. A day in my life. So I am here in my office. I work at an all-boys high school, a Jesuit all-boys high school. Hi, Katherine. I see you at Cristo Rey. So my job is unique in the sense that I'm one of 9 counselors here at Prep. So we have 2 freshman counselors, and then the rest of us deal with sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and you'll stay with me through graduation. So my daily life is unexpected every day, as I'm sure all the panelists can say. So I'm juggling pre-COVID, everything from academics to prom dates, to issues at home, to college plans. Here at Prep, some high schools, they separate kind of the social, emotional, and academic counseling from the college counseling. Here we make it all one, and that really aligns with my counseling ethos of your home life and your academic life affects your plans to go to college or not. Prep is also super unique in that we have a full guidance curriculum. So I also teach. If I'm your counselor, you will see me once a week in classroom, and we will cover everything from stress management skills to organization to the PSATs. And it's a really, really unique thing that we have here. And I think it speaks to our administration's value of counselors. In schools, counselors tend to be the, dare I say, the dumping ground. When in doubt, the counselor will take care of it. And so I feel incredibly valued here at Prep that I am as important as your science class or your math class. And that whether your son likes it or not, he's going to see me weekly in a classroom setting. So it makes my job, although still very difficult, way easier than it could be. So I have my schedule, I'm jumping in and out of classes, I'm seeing students. Now it's all most virtual. You can see I'm in my office. So we are here 5 days a week. The boys are in half and half. But it's a great job and I'm excited to share more with it. So thank you so much. I'm going to punt it over to Lauren.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for asking me here. This is so awesome. So I work in a private practice setting that I am the co-founder of. So myself and my partner in the practice, we started this about 3 years ago. So a day, a typical day for me would kind of basically be doing like about 8 sessions or so a day, like 50-minute sessions. I work with adults, young adults. So, you know, of course, the sessions are part of my day doing the clinical work, but also, as I'm sure many of us know, documentation is also a part of our day and routine. Also, like calling back perspective, like referrals. I also work with like psychiatrists in the area. And because myself and the co-founder of our practice are business owners, we also have the responsibility of like networking, marketing our business. So that's also a part of, you know, our regular routine part of our day. And St. Joe's being a psych major, while I was there, I was also a business major initially. So I actually think having both of those experiences helped me where I am now. So I guess I will pass it over to Katherine.
Thank you, Lauren, and thank you all so much for having me here. Much like my fellow panelists have echoed, I never thought I would be back here, but I am so excited to get to share a little bit about my experience and even to learn about some fellow Hawks. So as the Associate Director of College Counseling, my day is also very varied. Much like Sarah was mentioning, I work at a school where our social emotional and college and career is separated. So I made the decision when I took this position to put my social emotional hat kind of, I'm going to say, on the side and focus more on college and career counseling. If you've ever done any sort of college and career counseling or had that experience, you know that social emotional stuff definitely comes into play, especially if you're doing things like filling out the FAFSA. So I work at a school called Cristo Rey, which is one of 37 schools across the country. We serve a population, you have to meet a financial threshold to be able to be eligible to attend. So our population is primarily students that would qualify, and I hate even saying this, but I'm going to say it, as low income, primarily non-white population. So about 60% of our population identifies as Black or African American, about 30% as Hispanic or Latino, and 10% as either 2 races or more, or unidentified, or so on. And so there is a big commitment to college and career counseling. So we actually also have a teaching component to this role. So thinking about the way my day works, I teach a class once a week, or excuse me, 1 section per week. I see all of the junior class once per week. So the way we handle it is, as the associate director, I am the primary junior counselor, and then I oversee a population of seniors. So much of my day is spent trying to connect with my seniors, especially in this time of year, with application deadlines fast approaching. Early action, early decision is happening as early as Sunday. So especially now that we're virtual, constantly trying to connect with students, whether that's helping them to fill out their applications, starting them on filling out the FAFSA or the CSS profile. And then I teach class, a 50-minute class all around college prep, helping to support them through the college application process, but also helping them to get a sense of what this new reality is going to look like when they transition away from this safe place. So every day is definitely a little bit different. After class, I usually am also meeting with seniors, and then in the afternoons, I'm often meeting with students and their families, whether that's, again, doing more application support, scholarship support, or filing that FAFSA and CSS profile. So that's a little about me. Danielle, I'm going to pass the baton to you.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Good morning, everyone. Christine, thanks for having me on the panel. Nice meeting everyone. To my students, hope you guys are enjoying this year of COVID and many changes that have taken place. So I'll briefly say that pre-COVID, my day consisted of meeting with clients in person, either at my office, at a coffee shop, or the favorite seems to be going on a walk somewhere, because my clients felt more like they're talking to a friend versus a counselor or a professional. So they were more relaxed and sharing what their goals and their dreams were. But since COVID, it's definitely slowed down. My days are typically spent in my home office, occasional face-to-face, face covered, trying to have a genuine conversation, meeting on Zoom 4 or 5 times a day, emails and telephone meetings with my clients who are primarily either students going into college or getting out of college, as well as entrepreneurs, those looking to start a business or grow their business, and even up to individuals who've been in their careers for 15 or 20 years. Now they're looking for a way to transition into something different. So they'll meet with me to discuss career transitions, business startup, or set their career goals. Outside of meeting with clients, my day consists of having to pretty much revamp all of my in-person programs to make them virtual programs, and without losing that relationship that I enjoy with my clients, and making the virtual trainings as engaging, friendly, and exciting as possible, to give that real life in-person experience, because it's so hard to teach online because you don't have that personal energy that you get from being in front of people as you would on a computer. So just trying to dissect and tear down and rebuild programs to make it more suitable for where we're facing today is probably 50% of my day. The other 50% is solely speaking with my clients and helping them develop their career goals.
Thank you, everyone. It's really helpful to hear a little bit about what your day might look like, and also in terms of the clients that you work with and the people that you're serving in your roles. How did you decide to get into this field? What other types of things did you consider as you were exploring career options? What did that look like for all of you? And Lauren, I'm going to start with you for that one.
Hey everybody. So I think growing up in a family where there was a lot of focus on like volunteering, giving back to the community, it definitely kind of sparked wanting to be in a helping profession. Like I had mentioned originally at St. Joe's, I was a business major and I had a couple internships in like human resources, and I was kind of feeling like, yeah, I'm not really feeling this. This isn't giving me a whole lot of like meaning, I guess. So then I switched to psych. So that was sort of when I felt like I had more opportunities to explore things that were a better fit for me, things that were kind of giving me that inspiration and passion to get back into kind of a helping profession. I've always worked in the clinical setting. After St. Joe's, I went on to get my master's in social work. But like I said, originally I had considered, going down the business route, but I think switching over to the psych major at St. Joe's helped me to kind of lead me to the private practice setting, which I'm ultimately in now. I would also say, I think I originally wanted to work with kids. And what I would say to students is that I think having an open mind is really important, especially like at this point in your life. You kind of sometimes think you're like, this is what I want to do. But I think having an open mind, I now work not with kids, I work with adults. So I think having different internships, which allowed me to get into, settings that were kind of out of my comfort zone, led me to where I am now. So.
Awesome. Danielle, how about you?
So, like many, I started my career out in psychology fresh out of high school, primarily because I've always been the go-to person from 5th grade. I was like the best friend of everybody, and the family members all came to me as a child. I didn't know any better. I just was talking. So I pursued that career fresh out of college. And then when I got into the workplace and seeing not so much great leadership in the area of corporate America, I wanted to do more. I've always found myself strategizing on how to improve and how to make things better, and how to better collaborate within your department and other teams. So I went to school for organizational leadership and development, initially at Eastern University. So I started there, but then the coaching piece came because in spite of what I felt was great employment, I still felt there was something missing on the inside of me. And I was doing what everybody said they think I should do versus what I really wanted to do, which was dealing with organizations and helping people reach their goals and attain freedom from the inside out, not pursuing money, but pursuing purpose. So I started bridging visions for the purpose of helping individuals identify who they are, what they really want to do, what makes them happy. And with that came along, okay, how do you set your goals? How you determine your career plan? What will you really enjoy doing 5 years from now? So just out of my own personal struggle with getting into the right career and being someplace that makes me happy and fulfill my personal desires for my own future, I expanded Bridging Visions, like I said earlier, working with people to help them identify their purpose, set their goal, become accountable, start their businesses, change their careers, get positive outcomes. Because at the end of the day, it still ties into psychology, because if you're working at a place that you enjoy and you're happy with the place that you work, you're more likely to be happy at home. So it kind of balances out because you're not bringing the stress and frustration back to your house. So I really want to help individuals. I wanted to help individuals really find peace within so they don't have to go without. So that's basically the premises of where Bridging Visions came from, and the name itself, to help people bridge the vision from where they are to where they desire to be and find true success.
Thank you, Danielle.
Oh,
Catherine, how
I
about you?
gotta pass it to someone, right? Let's give it to Sarah.
Go ahead.
So it took me a long time to figure out what I wanted to do. And I think I got confidence when my mom at 65 said she's still figuring out what she wants to do when she grows up. That really helped. So I went to high school. I was completely undeclared at St. Joe's. I ended up declaring sociology. Very much like Danielle, I was just that outgoing kid. I knew very clearly what I didn't want to do. That has always been a clear answer. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I could list off, I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to be a business person, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I knew that one day I would meet someone and say, how did you get there? And what do I need to do? And honestly, my whole journey started with the Jesuits. I came from a public high school, and Jesuit education and the experience I had absolutely influenced my life. And now Katherine and I are part of this even larger Jesuit network than the one that we are all a part of. And we lean on each other a lot as people that work in Jesuit high schools and Jesuit colleges. So it's an incredible network. And then I was a tour guide, and I was on the board of the tour guides at St. Joe's, and learned to walk backwards like nobody's business. So my first gig was in college admissions. I graduated and said, I don't know, what am I good at? I'm really good at selling college. So I worked in college admissions for a few years and read the applications and filled out the FAFSA. And I met a high school counselor in Pennington, New Jersey. I remember where it was. The office was kind of this grandpa vibe, and he was just so great. And I was like, how did you get there? And it then still took me probably 8 years to find the master's program. Not all counseling degrees, as you guys know, are created equally. Not every counseling degree would get me here, which is where I wanted to be. So it took me a really long time. And to be honest, I think for a while there, I felt behind. A lot of my friends, similar to some of the panelists, they knew what they wanted. They got that degree. They went right to get their master's. And I was actually, bouncing around and, re in college admissions. I'm not going to lie, the idea of summers off didn't sound terrible. So education potentially was in my future. And so the opportunity came. I was back living in Philly and got a phone call from one of my former bosses, Jesuit Network, saying that there was a position here and would I come back to New Jersey, which is where I'm from. The Jesuit Network works in mysterious ways. So that's how I got here. And I think, the tour guide combo, the Jesuit community, and I always knew in my master's program, a lot of my friends were going kind of Lauren's route, and also, Danielle's route. I never wanted to be solo. I never wanted to be an individual counselor. I wanted to be part of a team. So I'm a part of a 9-person team here. And one of my colleagues used to work in social work. One used to work in family therapy. One used to work in financial aid. So I feel supported, and I'm better because of that. So that was a big kind of aha moment in my master's program, that my friends that kind of wanted to do that individual counseling, they kind of leaned one way. And I just, I mean, COVID's tough. I love being around people. So the fact that I'm part of a larger community in the building makes a really, really big difference. So Katherine, my friend, please.
So it's interesting because I've had a lot of similar experiences to many of you, and then also a little bit different. So when I graduated from high school, I had a guidance counselor that was really quite awful. He would fall asleep in my meetings. He didn't really pay attention to me because I wasn't like the top of the class or the bottom of the class. It felt like I just didn't rank. And that had always just left a really sour taste in my mouth. And I got to St. Joe's and I started as a psychology major, and it really felt prescribed. And I was taking some of the classes, and I'll be honest, like neuropsych just kicked my butt. And I was like, I'm not sure I can do this. And I had this great sociology class with a Jesuit who ironically is now a Jesuit that got placed at my high school, which is so cool to see Father Malloy back at my school. But anyway, so I switched to sociology, was pursuing it, still kind of had this kind of thought of like, guidance counselor. I knew I liked the idea of helping professions. I actually had been thinking more along the lines of criminal justice, being something like a youth advocate, Division of Youth and Family Services. But I also knew that I had a big heart, and I thought that was going to break it, and I wasn't going to have enough tough skin for that. So I kind of stumbled my way through college, loving my sociology degree, trying to work out what on earth I was going to do when I graduated. Sociology felt like the degree that prepared you for everything and nothing all at the same time. And I actually was the opposite of Sarah, and that I was terrified to be a tour guide. I was super shy and not outgoing, but I was a telehawk. So I had done the equivalent of inquiry calling, which I was then able to channel into my first admissions job. And while at that school, it was not great paying. And the one perk was you got a free master's. So while I was working as an admissions counselor, I said, all right, I'm going to make this work. What are the options? And lo and behold, they had a school counseling degree. So it kind of felt like kismet. It kind of felt like, God had a plan for me that I didn't even see for myself. But I was able to kind of use these different pieces to then transition into this program, finish the program, ultimately stayed in higher ed for a little bit. But I'm so excited to finally be, working in that Jesuit network. It is such a beautiful, special place, both through the opportunities you get at St. Joe's and then later in this kind of employment setting. But I definitely didn't see myself getting here. And much like Sarah said, I still am not sure if this is my end game. There are so many things I love about this position, but I once heard someone say people of our generation will change actual careers 5 to 7 times. I'm definitely not going to change careers, but is this my end game? I don't know. I've thought about going into one-on-one counseling. I've thought about trying to do more social emotional counseling in a school setting. So I think the fun part is that this is not the end. This is just a step along the way. And I'm really excited to, be where I am now, but still thinking about my future and where I can go from here.
Thank you, everyone. I loved hearing that. I feel like in my sessions with students, I hear a lot about the degree that prepared you for everything and nothing. And so really thinking about how do we take what we love and kind of channel that into what we're doing in our careers. It's helpful to hear how all of you did that. So my next question is a little long-winded. Danielle, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to ask it, and then feel free if you want to take it in whatever direction is fine. So students with an interest in counseling often feel there are not many jobs that they qualify for with an undergrad degree. And all of you are either pursuing or have completed a master's degree. But what's your reaction to this? Given what you know now, what types of roles might you consider an undergrad student to pursue, either while getting their master's degree or prior to getting their master's degree? What are the things that you could see people doing with an undergraduate degree? Danielle, I'm going to start.
So I feel that that's an untrue statement, that there are tons of jobs out here that people can get with an undergraduate degree. And because of the work I do, if you can't get a job, create a job. You become the job based on what your career goals are, what your plans are for your future. But I will also start with, if you don't have the experience, volunteering with nonprofits, becoming a mentor to your peers or someone younger than you. Not only becoming a mentor, but finding a mentor in different areas, not just the area that you desire to work in, but maybe an opposing area. So you can kind of look at it from both sides. Set yourself up for success while you're pursuing success, even while you're in undergraduate school. Identify what is that job that I want for my future? What do I see myself doing? And then go on LinkedIn or some other, or a company, go to the company's website and find out what type of work, what type of position you're looking for, and then look up that position, look up those requirements, find mentors in that field, network with individuals in your field, ask people to mentor you, to help hold you accountable, to help set you up for success. All those things I would do while pursuing my master's degree, and also while in the process of just completing an undergraduate degree. Keep yourself active, try different things, become a subject matter expert in that field. Read books that ties into your field, not just the textbooks that you're required to read for class, but read other books. Read books like by Steve Covey to find out what the 7 effective habits are. Start giving yourself great habits to move forward, to grow in your career. So I do not believe that there is not many jobs out there. Whatever you want to get is what you will receive. The harder you work, the more you'll get it. But more importantly, like I said, if you can have mentors or people of influence that can guide you through it, and take advantage of your career counselors and your advisors at the university, take all the necessary steps to position you for success. So I'll go ahead and pass it on to Katherine.
So it's funny, when I read this question, this was something that I very much struggled with, especially as I was graduating. And I think honestly, while the path I wound up on is not one that I ever thought would be a part of my path, I would say it was actually really helpful. So I would say if you have any interest in doing anything along the lines of college and career counseling, or working with a high school population in some way, honestly, being an admissions counselor was great. It gave me exposure to a wide variety of different high schools. So as part of an admissions counselor, you are a recruiter. So you are going into a variety of different high schools, meeting a variety of different people. There's lots of opportunities to network, to kind of meet different people, try things on, see what you like, see what kind of a school you might want to work for. And then also ultimately, these are people who could support you through the internship process if you do ultimately choose counseling, or even help you to find a position. So I loved starting off as an admissions counselor. I would definitely encourage anyone who's interested to do something along those lines. But quite honestly, anything in higher ed, I think, having that opportunity to work with students in kind of the setting that you are all in now, is a great fit to start then transition down and work in a high school setting. Do you want me to keep passing, or? All right, then I'll pass it over to Lauren.
Both were really awesome answers, and I would piggyback off of what you both shared, in that I think that there are so many options. And again, I think I felt similarly to Katherine when I graduated, like, oh my gosh, now what? Like, what the heck do I do? But there are so many options. I mean, there are people with undergraduates in psych who work in the crisis setting, inpatient psych jobs, schools with jobs within the school systems, for the Department of Children and Families, even working with kids with autism as like a TSS. In group homes with, kids that are struggling with mental illness. There are so many options. Volunteering, again, I think Danielle brought that up, like going to a local addiction center, to be able to go volunteer, help out, run groups. All of that is absolutely can be done with an undergraduate degree. And that is something that can really build your and gain your experience, and kind of allow you to kind of, get your feet a little bit wet to say, okay, you know what, that, felt, like out of my comfort zone, but I want to try that and do that again and see if this is something I'd like to pursue. And also, Katherine, you brought up a good point of like networking. Now you're connecting with these people who may allow you to have an internship should you get a master's, and you could go and pursue your internship there. So I think that there are so many options. And I think St. Joe's is a good resource of also connecting, probably a lot of those students with those options as well. Sarah, did you want to share?
Yeah, I'm the caboose here, and incredible advice. I got a lot of flack in college and afterwards for being a sociology major. And the number one people, what are you going to do with that? I don't know. I don't know. But I think, Jesuit education, I know I'm just, it's my soapbox, but I really believe in it. And so if you are at St. Joe's, you're already at an elevated position. You are getting a little bit of everything. And in sociology, so you learn communication, you learn working with others, you learn studying other people, that will be valuable regardless of what major or career you forward. We've heard time and time again with, pre-med programs, they no longer want biology majors. They got tons of those. Give me a psychology major, give me an architecture major or an art major, right? So bring me something new to the table. So, the education at St. Joe's, because it is Jesuit, you're getting a little bit of everything. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So I would just say, be thoughtful when going into a master's program. I graduated St. Joe's at a time, I graduated in 2004, and not everybody just kind of tuck and rolled into a master's program. And there's a little more of that recently. When I went back in 2008, 2009, 10, I was like the grandma in the group and everybody was fresh out of college because that's what you did. You kind of tucked and rolled. And I was definitely at an advantage. I absolutely agree with what Lauren said about, ask to shadow. I shadowed a lot of people. I think the main difference between all of us and our jobs is the space for which we do our job, right? So I'm, as Katherine and I are in a school system. And so we're dealing with school schedules and school holidays and attendance and things like that, right? Whereas Lauren and Danielle are doing more kind of clinical, individual, and very much we would work together, right? I would be calling Lauren as one of my references, working with the student. But the internship is by far, the practicum and the internship is the best, most valuable component of any counseling master's. And so the more you can do that, and if we were not in COVID, I would say come to Jersey, come on up, come hang out, because you really just want to feel it out. Feel out that inner city Philadelphia elementary school, feel out Cristo Rey, feel out an inpatient, and decide for yourself. It's really about the population. There's also, besides St. Joe's and their incredible alumni network, being in Philadelphia, I was always connected to the New Jersey associations, the Pennsylvania associations, and the Delaware associations, right? Because it's like 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes. I got my master's certification in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, and Delaware and Jersey, because I didn't know where I was going to land that job, right? So the broader network, ASCA, American School Counselor Association, is huge as a network. NJACAC, I'm actually on the board of the New Jersey Admissions Counselor Association. There's the PACAC, I think I got that right, which is the Pennsylvania, right? So, and we are desperate for kind of graduate students and undergrad. I know I can speak for everybody, even though I haven't met you all. We are here because there are people that came before us. And somebody gave us a one-up. Somebody helped us up. Somebody invited us to that table. And so if we can do that for somebody else, even if you decide that this is not for you, even better that you decide prior to moving your life across the United States or taking that first job or buying your whole new wardrobe to fit that position, even better that you kind of dip your toe, as Lauren said, and decide it before, your name is kind of on that contract and on that check. But that was incredibly long-winded. I don't get to talk to people a lot right now in this kind of setting anymore, forgive me. But long story short, the undergrad degree does not matter. Study something you will love. You will do better in the classes, as Danielle said, if you like them. If you like the class, and shout out to Father Malloy, changed my life. I think I got a D in his class. It was the lowest class I ever had at St. Joe's. Cultural anthropology, it's fine. I've clearly moved on. But, just these, changed the course of where I was going to go. And then, you meet that grandpa in Pennington, New Jersey, and you say, how do I get there? I didn't even know this was a job. Just like Katherine, I had a terrible high school guidance counselor. So maybe I have this little ego of like, I could do that better. And I bet you could. I bet you could. So we're all waiting for the next crowd to kind of come on up and make this even better than it is, make this a better community than it already is.
Thank you. I love the tuck and roll image. I haven't heard that described that way, but definitely something we see in the college counseling field. And I also want to reiterate something that Sarah said about professional associations. I tell students all the time, there are so many professional associations out there, and they often have a student rate that's pretty darn low, or often free resources for students. And so definitely an opportunity for you to explore a field, to get mentorship opportunities, to get involved in some professional development. So there is a what can I do with this major resource on the Career Development Center website that lists at the bottom like lots of different professional associations. So definitely a resource to check out if you're interested in learning a little more about that.
Christine, if I could say also, I rarely hear an employer say, oh, and I went back and I specifically looked at their undergraduate major. And it's so rare that it kind of, they dig that, you know, it's who do you know? It is that networking.
Yeah.
It is, and when you say it's who you know, it doesn't mean that you know the CEO.
Right.
It's that person that you shared a cab ride. Okay, that's okay. An Uber ride with, that happens to know Catherine's coworker, then she remembers me. You know, it's these weird little connections. It's not somebody has the most money or somebody's on the board. It's these really kind of intimate connections that usually, shockingly, pay off and make a difference.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And I think students who have worked with me or Nina know, we often say, we don't like to say your major doesn't matter, but we do say that, right? Your major doesn't matter. You're choosing your major based off of what you like to explore, what you like to sit in on classes on, and then thinking about what do I do with this? It is about talking with people and having experiences and kind of getting an understanding of what that looks like in the world of work. Your major matters based on the classes that you sit in on, but when it comes to your career development, right, there are many different things that might inform where you land professionally. And then to many people's points that your career is going to change over time, and you might feel energy in a different area at a different point in your life. So many great insights there on that round. And so I want to now talk about, we talked about tucking and rolling into a graduate program, and everyone here on this panel started their graduate program at different points in their career and their lives. And you have different degrees in many different ways. So there are lots of different graduate degrees out there. How did you decide to pursue your specific degree? Tell us a little bit more about that decision-making process. And Katherine, if I can start with you.
Sure. So thank you, Christine. I sort of had an idea that there were a lot of things that I liked that were going to require a master's degree. So I very quickly realized that that was something that was going to be in my future. But I also knew that I was a new graduate. I was quite honestly a little poor, like I didn't have the money. And so I knew I was going to take a little bit of time to work and make sure 100% that I knew what I wanted before I started investing in a graduate program. And ultimately, I'm a little guilty in that I didn't make my choice because I fell into my master's program. But what I will say is that all of the programs are a little bit different at the school I attended. The way the program was structured is that it was a master's of counseling. And so everyone took the same classes at the beginning. And then you had the opportunity to branch off into a different concentration. So your option was professional counseling, so doing much like what it sounds like Lauren and Danielle do, or school counseling, much like what Sarah and I, to a certain extent, do now. You also had the opportunity to do both, although that was more credit, so that was going to take a little bit longer. So I ultimately at the time was, kind of thinking like Sarah mentioned, like, I'm not sure I want to do this one-on-one thing. The school thing feels like a good fit. So I did ultimately make the decision to go the school counseling route. So my degree is a master's of counseling, a master's of arts in counseling with a concentration in school counseling. While I was finishing up, they actually changed the certification process. So I did an additional practicum. So I did an additional internship so that I could be K-12 certified. And then at my last higher education institution that I worked at, I actually had the opportunity to take more classes. So now I actually can go on and get certified as a professional counselor. So I've had kind of a weird journey, and I think that's okay. but you definitely want to do a lot of research into the program. Identify what are the courses you're going to be taking, where are you going to be able to get certified or licensed. If you are from a state that is not the state of Pennsylvania, you want to make sure that you're going to get certified or licensed in the state that you are going to want to ultimately live in. So look at the classes, look at their, practicum rates, look at how easy it is to get an internship. Are you finding the internship? Are they placing it for you? So definitely you want to do some digging before you ultimately commit. And I will say, so I started my program about 6 months after I graduated from college. I didn't graduate until 3.5 years later. I went on the very slow track because I was working. So I definitely saw the tuck and rollers. And then I also saw some people that came after me. I think the ultimate goal is you have to just follow whatever's the right path for you. I'm gonna pass to Danielle.
Okay, I think you muted me, Christine. So the question is, how did I decide to pursue my specific degree, which is organizational leadership and development? Again, because of my experience in corporate America and the lack of great leadership, there's a lot of frustration that stemmed from it. That's one reason. The other reason is my brain is like this, so I'm always trying to figure out how to streamline something and how to make it better. That's my second reason. And then the third reason is my business started out with individuals in small groups, and I'm looking to expand it to provide consulting and training in the corporate world, because I feel there is a great need for leadership, corporate training, executive coaching, organizational development, strategic planning, workflow development, all those areas I feel is necessary in the workplace. Again, based on my experience, it has not always been a great process working with individuals in leadership. And because I feel that I'm a naturally gifted leader, I see beyond what's in front of me. I'm like, far reached. I look out beyond the circumstances. And I have a way of taking pieces of a puzzle to put it together. So it was just natural for me to just want to go a step further in my career, to really grow, to train. I don't want to be the only solo person working for Bridging Visions. I want to build a team of like-minded people. So I need to be the example for what I want to see. So having that degree will open up more opportunities for me to get my foot in the door, and also give me, of course, I'm adamant about continuing education. You never stop where you are. You can always learn more. So I wanted to really learn and grow in my chosen field so I can become more effective at the work that I do. Lauren?
So I think I had graduated at St. Joe's in May, and then having researched social work and other options, I started at Widener social work program just a few weeks later after I graduated. So understanding that going the social work route would mean that in order to pursue counseling, I would have to obtain my LCSW, which would take about 2 years with clinical experience post getting a master's degree. So for me, I learned that social work in social work school, and understanding that that program would be allowing me to focus on fighting for social justice, improving the lives of individuals, communities, and also being able to provide counseling. So I found for myself getting a master's in social work was the best fit for me personally, which could allow me to work in a clinical setting with clients, but also have the option to work on a macro level, which I could potentially work, on program development, large communities, the option to work with community-based education initiatives, policy development, organizational development. All of that would be a possibility to do. So it felt like social work was a good umbrella of being able to have these options. Widener is very much a clinical focused school. And their program, allowed me the opportunity to explore that field of social work. And I would highly recommend their program. It was really excellent. through the 2-year program they have, you must complete an internship. And those internships were incredibly important. And my last internship and my last year of social work school, they actually hired me, which then allowed me to jumpstart my career, just graduating with my master's, and then ultimately, of course, has allowed me to have the experience, to be where I am now. So really making the jump to social work school was really, a really good fit for me. And I'd really recommend it for anyone who has those interests. Sarah?
So once again, if you don't know what you want to do, get a job in admissions. It is the best launch pad ever. Teaches you how to work with people, travel by yourself, learn how to drive. Before we had cell phones, that's a whole different conversation. So when in doubt, admissions is the best launch pad. The network is just incredible. And now I have friends throughout the states and the world based on those road warrior days of us eating nothing but Panera and staying at the Holiday Inn. So now I feel like I got to say it. I mean, sorry, Lauren, but I went to Westchester University, the Golden Rams. And I was living back here in Jersey, working in admissions, and I got an opportunity to move back to City Line Avenue, and I couldn't say no. I mean, I was still missing Philadelphia, loving Philadelphia. So I got a job managing a high rise right near St. Joe's. And I did that gig for a while, and I staked out my options, but I held off going to grad school, just like Katherine, until I was a resident of Pennsylvania so that I could go to Westchester on the cheaper. And then I quit my job at like 28 when everybody else was, starting to get married and maybe talking about kids. I straight up quit my job and I worked at like a Starbucks for 2 years because I didn't want to, in my mind, waste any more time, right? So if I had gone part-time, I don't know how long this program would take. And you still have to do that internship. And I knew I wanted to be in a school, and schools are only open Monday through Friday, 8 to 3. So that would be an issue with like a real job. So I quit my job and 2 years lived on ramen with my then boyfriend, now husband. And I went back full and hard. And I, at that point, very clearly knew what I wanted, but there was a good 6 years there where I was jumping around an admissions job. I managed this high rise just to be back near Hawk Hill, and meeting people and saving my money so that I could go back. And then by that point, when I got to the grad degree, so Lauren was way ahead of me. I then had Lauren's clarity. I got shout back to my D in freshman year of St. John's. I didn't get any grade lower than an A because I now knew this will affect my future. And silly me at 18, I don't know, this class, I'll get a C, I'll get a, now that it was, my time, my money, I'm still in debt from St. Joe's, but that's a different conversation. I was so driven. So I think, just not rushing, as many of the panelists said, taking your time. There is no rush. I think it doesn't matter what your undergrad degree is. That is 1000% accurate. It matters what your grad degree is. It does. If you want a certain job, you need a certain master's, as Katherine said. So to be really Jesuit and reflective and thoughtful about that process, it will make all the difference to make sure, once again, my master's, so I ended up, I'm just going to look over here at my diploma because it's hanging on my wall, a master's in education, K-12 school counseling. So I did the option of the K-12 because I didn't know where my life would take me. I knew that the high school crowd was more my speed, but I didn't ever want to regret if I moved to a place and there was only an elementary school position. I wanted to keep my options open. So I had worked at the college level. And I think that also gave me confidence because admissions was a great gig. I mean, you didn't get paid much in those first years, as Katherine said, but you could climb that ladder, and it was a pretty great gig. So I think I felt comfortable knowing even if this doesn't pan out, I can always go back to admissions. There's an awesome website called higheredjobs.com, and it has every job ever at every university and college, whether it's janitor to president. And I was always on there just being like, all right, if this doesn't work out, maybe I could work admissions at Widener. Maybe I could go over, I mean, I would never look at Villanova, obviously, but any other school, you know, so I think that gave me a little confidence as well.
Thank you, everyone. That was really helpful to hear how you kind of landed where you are. I'm definitely someone, I went to the University of Scranton for my undergrad, and I chose that for the key reason that they had a master's program that you could start taking classes as an undergrad. So I went straight through with my degrees actually overlapped. So I am someone that just went straight through as well. And I think that made sense for me. And there's so many different things that you should think about before pursuing a master's degree. Because as Sarah said, the master's degree is much more targeted and is going to inform probably what you're doing with your career. I'm mindful of time, and so I want to take a minute to throw it back to the students. I didn't see any questions coming through the chat, but students, if you have questions, if you want to just raise your hand or enter them into the chat, I want to make sure we have a chance to hear if there's something that we didn't talk about before closing out today. So I think I'm going to be able to see hand raises. So let me just pull through here. Just giving that a few minutes before I ask our panelists to close it out. I recognize some of the student names here, so I'm really happy to see some of you were able to chime in, particularly those people who I've talked to in counseling appointments. All right, students. Going once, going twice. Am I missing any hands? Okay. All right, before we close out, I'm going to ask our panelists just to share a final word of advice that they have for students. And I'll give you each a minute or two before we round out and say thank you. Sarah, I'm going to start with you. Quick word of advice for students.
Oh man, knowing what you don't want is just as important as knowing what you want. There are lots of great gigs out there, and we're part of your network. I mean, you're building it every moment. So I believe you can find all of our contact information in the alumni network. At least for myself, please ask Christine for it. I'd be happy to help out. But, you know, it really is, we are all in a helping profession. And you all have known for a very long time that that's what you want to do. You know that when you're kind of young. So it's hard to say this right now in COVID, but knowing what you don't want is just as important. And don't forget to take care of yourselves. These are weird times. So even as students, find joy, take a deep breath, do something good for yourself as often as possible. Best of luck.
Lauren?
I would say to always have an open mind, get involved in different aspects of the field, even if it's something you're not sure, you want to do. It doesn't hurt to sort of get a little uncomfortable, lean into the discomfort, try it, see if it's something that would be possibly a journey you could go down. Be mindful of your own limits. I think people, of course, get into this line of work because they enjoy helping people. Absolutely. I think probably all of us could agree with that. But I think burnout can sometimes come up in this field. So I think knowing and being mindful of your own limits, being able to have healthy boundaries is super important. And I think being able to practice self-care, especially now, is also really important. That would be my advice. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Lauren. Danielle, how about you?
I say do what you love and the money will follow. Don't get caught up in a career and thousands upon thousands of dollars in debt trying to do something to satisfy somebody else, whether that's your family, your friends, society, or the status quo. Do what you really enjoy doing, because if you really enjoy doing it, you're going to do more of it, which means you'll excel and the money is going to come. And because the money's coming, you're going to want to do more of it. So it's a win-win situation, and it minimizes a lot of workplace stress and frustration because you actually love the work that you're doing. Also, like the other panelists have said, self-care is extremely important, but self-care comes with finding peace within yourself. And that peace comes from really just looking within to identify what it is that makes you happy. What do you want to do? And not what others are telling you you should do. And lastly, I would say, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to change your career. Okay, so what? You got it. You're pursuing your degree in psychology and you decide, you know what? I want to be an accountant. whatever it takes for you to reach the core and the essence of who you are, do it. And don't be ashamed of it. This is your life, is your future. You have to go to that job every day or start that business. Do not allow anyone, and I mean anyone, to deter you from pursuing the things that make you happy. That's it for me.
Thanks, Danielle. Katherine, how about you?
I don't know how to follow up those guys, but I guess I would say definitely try not to let yourself get intimidated by the people who it feels like they have it all figured out. Odds are good that they don't. Or if they do, maybe they know what their first step is, but that doesn't mean that they know what their next step is. So try not to let those people who are saying, you know, what do you want to do with your life? What are you going to do when you graduate? Get in your head. Instead, focus on you, focus on your passions, focus on those things that make you happy, the things that make your heart sing, the things that give you joy, and then think about how you can turn that into a job. Understand that the path to success, and again, success is totally personal. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks success is, but that the path to success is not always straight. Sometimes you have to hit a couple bumps in the road, whether that's, personal things, professional things, but just know that if it's your true path and if that's your true desire, you can make anything you want happen. You can get anything you need.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Students, if you can just join me in a virtual round of applause. We're so grateful to each panelist that you were able to come and share your experiences with us and your backgrounds. And I know our students really benefited from hearing your words of advice about your backgrounds, about your experiences. So thank you. Thank you. Students, I know some of you may have a 12 o'clock class that you're getting to. So, thank you for joining us today and for spending this hour with us. And I hope to see some of you at the Career Center if you want to continue this conversation. So thank you. Thank you.